If Montreal finishes 5th overall in this year's draft, do you think they will give up assets to try and get the 1st or the 2nd overall? Or would it be better to take the pick and bundle assets for another Kirby Dach trade?
Well, I don't think they're trading up to first or second overall. Definitely not first,
No.
and probably not second either, just because we don't see trades like that anymore. They just don't happen. So there's no point. I mean, you can try. And listen, last year Ken Hughes tried. He talked to pretty much everyone ahead of him in the draft, with the exception of, I think, Columbus, and just tried his best to get, and it just wasn't happening. Like the cost to move from 5 to 2 is so astronomically high, because teams are scared to death to do stuff like that. Like they're just afraid that the player that they choose not to draft will become a super mega star, and the player they wind up getting with the 5th overall pick, no matter what else you got, whether it's a player, whether it's a whole bucket of picks that the Canadiens could easily offer, those bucket of picks, you add them all up, and even that 5th pick, you add it all up, there's a good chance it won't equal the value of that one player that was taken 2nd overall. So, and frankly, if the Canadiens are not moving to 1st this year, they might get the player that they were going to take 2nd in the 5th slot anyway. It's possible.
That's the point I wanted to make, because there's no clear order at the top as to who's going to go 2nd or 3rd. Last year, you knew the top 4 guys, who would they be, and maybe we'll get more clarity between now and the draft. But after Celebrini, I mean, I guess that some team will give a shot at Demidov in the top 5. There's going to be certainly a couple of defensemen being drafted, but even then, which one of them sub from one team to another, they're going to have a different defenseman on top of their list. So it's I don't know.
I mean, the thing is, Demidov could fall to 5. Like that's the reality of it. He could go 2nd, but he could fall to 5. So if you're giving up a whole bunch of assets to move up to 2nd to get a guy that you could wind up drafting at 5th, then what's the point? I mean, it's and plus, you have to be relatively confident that if Demidov does go in the top 4, that the player you wind up with is still going to be a comparable prospect. So, but just the premise of the question, I would suggest not thinking of moving up that high in the draft, because history has suggested it's just not. Well, first of all, history has suggested that the Canadiens are going to try. So I would imagine they'll try again. I would imagine they'll fail. That's really what that comes down to. And maybe.
How about moving that pick?
Moving that, I definitely think that would be on the table. I mean, listen, we were talking about Zegras a while ago. I think that pick would have to be in play to get him.
Mm-hmm.
That would give Anaheim 2 top 5 picks in this draft. Pretty enticing thing. I definitely think the Canadiens would be open to trading that pick. I don't necessarily think they will, but if they can get creative with it and make an impactful trade that has that pick as its centerpiece, I don't think the Canadiens would hesitate to do it. I really don't. It goes to what I was saying earlier, where I do feel like this offseason is a bit of a tipping point for this organization. They want it. We started this podcast talking about progression. Well, they want to progress, and it's hard not to get the sense that this offseason is going to be one where management tries to force feed that progression a little bit to this organization, to this team. So if that means trading that pick for an established young offensive player, I think that would totally be in the cards, and it would fit the MO that this management team has for this summer.
Totally. That would become their signature move, right? Of doing
Yeah.
that 3 years in a row.
Hmm.
But it wouldn't make sense because nobody has done that sort of deal in the past. Certainly not 2 years in a row, and certainly not 3 years in a row. So that would
And
be
this
probably
would be different. This would be a top five pick
yeah,
potentially, and that's, I mean, I don't think the Jets pick is going to get you a whole lot, but having that Jets pick means you're still going to speak on the first night of the draft. You're still going to draft a player. It's not obviously not going to be even close to the quality, but if you can use that first pick to go out and get an established quality player that's less of a lottery ticket, um, and then still get to draft a player in the first round anyway, I think they would take that.
yeah. I think that the Jets pick though, it's I think that they have a possibility there of trying a home run swing because there are guys that are very talented that could turn to become very very good players, but it's just that there are doubts for one reason or another on these guys. But it's not to say
Mm-hmm.
necessarily that there's no talent available after 12 or 14. There will be guys,
Yeah.
in 2023, Quentin Musty was drafted 26th overall by the Sharks, and he was considered the guy, a talented guy, but someone, there were doubts about this and that. But man, he's been dominant this year in Sudbury, and
Mm-hmm.
probably that the Canadians, if they were willing to give it a shot and try a home run swing in the late 20s, that could be something also that they try to, find this year's Quentin Musty. I don't know.
Yeah.
We'll see.
Sure. Absolutely.